But, talking of populism, let's Mr. Trump, right? So is he going to, Jake, end the war in 24 hours? Or is it 48? I'm not entirely sure.
No. I'm convinced we're never going to get to the point where Ukraine rejects a deal. I
Right.
don't see the Russians and Trump's foreign policy team, once they start talking to them, ever agreeing on anything. And I'll just give you 1 point. Let's go ahead and say the Russians take back Kursk. Kursk is not part of the negotiations. The
Mm-hmm.
Russians are claiming that the city of Zaporizhia belongs to them. The city of Zaporizhia today is 700,000 people. And for Trump's transition team, who don't care about people, don't care about this city, they're going to tell the Ukrainians, okay, yeah, Russia says this city is theirs. I guess 700,000 people just need to evacuate. They just need to abandon a city larger than my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is just insane to think about what the Russians are actually demanding. And as soon as they get into a room with competent, sane people, the next Secretary of State, I think, will be Marco Rubio. The next National Security Advisor will be Mike Waltz. These are not crazy people. Like, for the deep state MAGA Trump people, Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz or Tulsi Gabbard, those people live in a fantasy alternate reality where facts don't matter and people are irrelevant. But for actual people that live in reality, that know the hard truths, what the Russians are demanding is impossible. So
Mm.
they're the ones who are going to have to compromise. They are the ones to get a freeze in the conflict or sanctions to be lifted. They are going to have to give up on the idea of taking the city of Zaporizhia or retaking the city of Kherson on the other side of the river. They're claiming that as well. They're never getting across that river again, but they're going to demand it. And we're going to find out together in late January, early February, what happens when the talks break down. When Trump, who said he could get a deal in a day, doesn't get a deal. Because I don't think the Russians are going to deal with him. I think the Russians are expecting everything they've been demanding this entire time. And if they don't get it, they're just going to continue what they've been doing because Putin thinks he's winning.
But do you not think that that's slightly? I don't know. I mean, because from the other perspective that you can argue, Putin obviously has preferred Trump. He finds him more manipulatable. He's reactionary. And so for someone like Putin, who might not be master strategist, but he has a bit more of a brain on him than Trump in many ways, do you not think that might be a bit of a risk? Because Trump has said, or insinuated at least, that if Putin isn't willing to at least signal that he wants to commit to some agreement, that Trump will do a U-turn and basically just escalate or elevate the amount of support to Kiev. So do you not think that's a risky strategy for Moscow?
I hope Trump will change his language. And here's my bottom line argument to Trump supporters. Do you really want to return to a multipolar world in which the United States is no longer the lone economic and military hegemon of the planet?
Mm.
Do you really want to give up power or share power with a reinvigorated Soviet empire, Russian empire? Why would you allow Putin to retake the Baltics, retake Ukraine, retake Moldova, retake the Caucasus, Georgia, parts of Kazakhstan, whatever he wants, in order to make himself richer and more powerful? For the anti-deep staters, or whatever you want to call them, the conspiracy nuts, they repeated that propaganda of the need to return to a multipolar world to balance out the United States when Biden was in charge, when the Democrats were in charge. Now that they have complete power, they control the Supreme Court, they control Congress, there are no checks and balances, they can do whatever they want. Fascists are not very good about sharing power. And I've accepted that Donald Trump will be my president for the next 4 years. And I want good things to happen. I'm skeptical. I'm critical. I'm going to call him out when he gives in to his worst authoritarian tendencies. But he actually might be useful this first year. Now, specifically, how do we get MAGA to vote for additional military aid after they've been saying for the last 3 years that that tax money should be going to help homeless vets in San Francisco or, hurricane relief? Like, there's been so much anti-Ukraine aid rhetoric on the right here in the United States that for them to then flip and then want to vote for it, it's possible. Trump changes his mind and flips positions on things so often, so fast. So that's a possibility. I don't think MAGA and Trump are ever going to vote for military aid again. But what they can do is use other agencies to actually enforce sanctions, apply more sanctions, go after Russia's shadow fleet, of tankers. There are other things that Trump could do in office to exert pressure on the Russians. And I argue after 3 years going on the fourth year of this war, Russia is extremely brittle. It's not going to take much more exertion and pressure from the G7 if they want to get serious to actually cause a collapse of the Russian state. Now, the Biden administration and Jake Sullivan have been saying, we don't want this. We need to contain the fighting to just Ukraine. We don't want to destabilize Russia. We don't want Russia to collapse. This could lead to the scenario of loose nukes and various warlords who all have nukes fighting over gas fields and gold mines and all of Russia's vast resources. But Trump might say, I don't care about that. Trump might say, I don't care about escalation management. I don't care if Russia collapses if they don't do what I want. This is the world we're heading into in 2025. You and I are going to be spectators front row, taking it all in as it happens.